Well, good morning. Actually, I planned to say good morning, ladies and gentlemen, but I think there are no ladies present today. But still, I told you all right, maybe? No, not today. Okay. Welcome to this presentation, which is about PostgreSQL. And we have presentations about database management, we have presentations about SQL, and we have presentations about all the technologies and features in Xbase 2.0. So my job today is to give you a rather high-level overview over this server system. And I'm also going to take you through the installation sequence, just to give you an idea of what's ahead of you. So, I'd like to begin with the most basic question there is, so what is it? What is PostgreSQL? If you look into the documentation, this is what it tells me. It's the most advanced open source database system in the world. Well, that's good to know, isn't it? But it's also a lot more. It's an object relational database management system. It began as a research project at the University of California. The project itself has a long history, which can be traced back, I think, as far as the late 70s or early 80s. And sometime during the course of the project, it was decided to develop this as an open source project. This was in 1996, and since then the server system is known as PostgreSQL. And previously, when it started out, the project was named Ingress. So I think this name is supposed to say this is succeeding Ingress, so it's post-Ingress. That's the best explanation I have. There is some kind of misconception related to the term open source. Many people think that open source projects are either cheap, incomplete, being maintained as part-time projects, but this is not the case with the PostgreSQL server. Because having started out as a research project with an academic background, this is based on a strong technical foundation. And in terms of feature set, it's comparable to almost any other database server system out there, including the commercial ones such as Microsoft SQL or other systems. It's very fast, it's very complete, it's state-of-the-art, which is why we picked it as a basis for the Arctica project. Also, the server, when you have installed this, is not crippled in any way, which means you can use it in all kinds of projects, and you're not going to find yourself in nasty surprises as you do with other server systems, such as the Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL, which at the time when you're ready to take a project live require you to obtain new licenses, because even it's open source, you can't take a project and on the license which you have, take it live. PostgreSQL also comes with a complete documentation, and it's supported by a very active community. There's also a large number of book titles, which you can find on Amazon.com, for example, or in your local bookstore. So there's the docs that get installed, but also secondary literature which you can buy to get yourself up to speed. Feature set-wise, there's a long list of things that the server can do, which personally I find quite impressive. That the table size, for instance, can go up until 64 terabytes. There's no size limits in the table indexes, no limits on the rows of the table. just go check out the documentation. I find that's quite impressive. Now, at this point, we planned originally to have the installation package of the server ready on our system running over there, but as it said there at the bottom, sorry, the damn server is not up there. We're trying to get it to work, and we hope you'll be able to manage it today. And then you'll be able to get your hands on the server, but right now it's not possible. Is anybody in here who's installed the server already? No? There's one. Okay, so you can help me out if something goes wrong? That's good.
Could we just go and put it on leave?
That would be the last resort.
The last resort?
Yeah.
Okay, that might be the first resort.
No, because we have the server running already.
Okay.
Yesterday we were able to connect to it through a local, very local wireless LAN, so it should be running today. If not, we can revert back to this.
The server was working this morning.
Sorry?
This morning it was working. The server.
It was working?
Yes, I downloaded
okay.
the package.
So it's going up today?
I downloaded the package.
Okay.
You can't do it right now. It's not working right now.
It's not working.
It's
You
not
can
working
connect it,
right
but
now.
doesn't download.
Okay.
So it gets stuck.
Good, we tell you when it's up. Maybe that's a good thing, because I can show you in advance what it means to install the server system, provided I can find my cursor and get it to do what I want. I was preparing this on a screen with a much larger screen resolution, so you can read this? Okay. This is the installer package for the PostgreSQL server. I'll just click on it to run the installation for me. It's actually a straightforward process. There are only 2 to 3 dialogues which require your attention. And the first one is this. It's asking about the installation language. And for this presentation, I'm going to select Queen's English. And then click Start. To have it go to the installation for me. There are installation notes, of course, which I'm sure you're going to read carefully. As all developers do, reading documentation now. Okay. I suggest you do this time, maybe you find something useful. But in this case, I click Next. To see the list of features which are included in this package. There's, of course, the server itself at the top of the list, the database server, and also the data directory, which is where your databases are going to be placed after installation. So pick somewhere meaningful, useful for this entry data directory. If you click on it, you can change the database folder here with this button. For a test system, you can leave everything as it is. It will place the databases in the program files folder, and all the other items in this list are okay like this as well. There's an application stack which allows you to install supplemental packages if you want later. And there's also, and this is important, user interfaces for administrative tasks like creating tables and databases and stuff. So I recommend to leave this checked to be included in the installation. And the last entry here, development, is for installing header files for server development. You won't need this for now. So we just click Next and get to a dialog where we need to supply a Windows user account for the service the server is going to run under. This is the default for Postgres to run as a server, which certain advantages, like the server being run each time you boot your system, like the possibility to control the server status via the Windows services snap-in, which you all know will start and stop services. There are other ways to do it, but this is the easiest, I think. The name for the service account is preset as Postgres, which I think makes a lot of sense. So I leave this as it is and give this a very secure password, like Postgres. You'd never get it. And I click Next, which shows me a dialog asking yet again for a username and password. This time, this is kind of administrative user I'm setting up here. The last dialog was a Windows account for running the program, and this is the user internal to the Postgres system.
Can you come back to the previous slide, please?
Yeah.
Account domain, where do you find the information?
Yeah.
The account domain, where do you find this information?
It's preset.
It's preset for you.
It's preset and taken from a local system you run the server. So this is what this virtual machine is named for. I didn't enter this, it was there when I entered this dialog. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. This time we need to set up an administrative user inside the server itself, which is going to be the user that can create databases, create users, add tables and delete tables. This is Postgres internal, so it's not a Windows user, but still you need to supply a name for the super user and a password, which is, who can guess, in my case, Postgres again. Everything else you can leave at the defaults for a test system. There's system encoding, character set encoding, leave it as it is. There's client encoding, which is in this case to something I don't really understand, set to something I don't understand, probably because this virtual machine is configured this way. Ignore this for now. You can just click Next. Get presented with some options for installing procedural languages for administrative purposes, for example. Ignore this again, click Next. And we are almost at the end of the installation, where you can select optional packages. Again, right now there's nothing in there which you need for Arctica. You can just click OK again, and you're ready to install. After this, it's the stormy progress bar running from left to right, which is quite boring, which is why I'm going to put away this virtual machine and show you the end result, which is back on my laptop, development folder, database management systems. PostgreSQL. This is what the installer put in my start menu. There are several items, most of which again are not too important right now. What you're going to need is the PG admin utility, which is the third item, which is for administration. What you might need is those entries below for stopping the service. They're not terribly important, but they're there in case you need it. This one is good. The documentation, check it out. There's documentation for the PG admin, there's documentation for the server itself, there's release notes, there's a lot of things. Go check back there in case you're in trouble. I find it to be a good read actually. There's dry stuff as well, lists, numbers, all of this, but it's written not too bad. You can actually read this stuff. That's very good, I find. Good, so now we have the server running on this machine. And as a next step, I'd like to have a closer look at this PG admin program. Again, this is for administration. So what you see here is everything related to the server you just set up. Here I've just one server, or more correctly, I'm connected to just one server. I could have more than one, so this list could get longer. So everything in here belongs to a new server. There's several sections in this list. There's a section for the databases. In this case, there's just one, which is for internal purposes. This belongs to the super user that we set up in the installer. There's a section on so-called table spaces, which translates to physical storage. This defines where your tables and databases are going to end up in terms of disks and partitions. You could split those things up, put stuff on this disk, on this disk. That's all defined in the sections here on table spaces. At the bottom, there's the organization management, which is based similar to Windows on users and groups. You have users which are allowed to do certain things. You have other users which are not allowed to do certain things. So you could, for example, have a user set up for running queries, for looking at data, but not for changing it. This is all done in the bottom section here. In the group roles and login roles. More on this later. Because now there was enough talk, let's get our hands dirty and create a table. This is about the first step that you need to do when you want to begin programming with Actica. So what you need to do, the first step is to run the pgadmin utility. In the start menu, I select pgadmin. And see a window which is actually almost too big for this screen resolution, but you can read it, can you? Okay. Again, there's my new server, which has this nice red X at the bottom of the icon because I'm not connected yet. To change this, I double click the entry in the list, and I need to supply my super user password. Because I'm clever, I did something else in the installer and named this test. I entered this password, click OK, and now I'm connected, and I can see all the items which belong to the server. And the program itself is organized as follows. Here is the server in this tree view. There's databases, table spaces, and so on. And on the right-hand side, there's information on the item you've selected on the left. So it says here that I'm connected to the PostgreSQL database server, whose host name is localhost, which this is to port so-and-so, which has maintenance databases and so on. I could click on the database layers and I get information like the name of the database, like the owner of the database. So you select on the left, you get information on the right. And also to change things, same pattern. You select an item, you right click this time, and in the context menu you get the operations that you can perform on the item selected. In this case, I selected the databases node, right clicked, and get the context menu for selecting new database. This is what we came here for, right? To create a database, which in this case I want to name customer. There's a lot of things I can do here, but the name is what we need at this point, because we don't have set up, we haven't set up any users yet. It's a plain vanilla system, so I can't specify anything else yet. There's just a name for the database. I click OK. Watch my hard disk spinning, and when everything goes right, there's a new database called customer. Again, I select the thing. See, it's the database table. There's an object ID. There's an owner. There's table spaces. This baby belongs to. All the information belongs to the new database. Now, I'm going to explore a bit more. Inside this database, there's a node called catalogs, which contains meta information about this database I've just created. That's not too important right now. Let's ignore this and go further down the schemas route. Am I saying this right? Schema? Or schema? Schema. Schema. Okay, we're watching the schemas now.
Yes.
Good. Okay, there's a public one, and there finally we have all the database objects. Here is where you find your tables, here is where you find your stored procedure, your views, and all the other things organized under the database. And again, following the general pattern of selecting items, clicking right, going into the context menu, and finally reach a point where I can create a new table. That is, when I can see the dialog, which again is a bit too big for this resolution, but here it is. We are in the customers database, which now is about to receive a new table called customers. I'm going to be in trouble because I can't operate this thing. This time, in the table, I want to create fields or columns. So I need to do a bit more this time. In the columns tab, there's at the bottom of the screen a push button, which is called Add. Is there any possibility to increase the resolution here? No. Or anybody here knows to operate this baby? No? Okay.
You can resize the screen. You can decrease yours.
I can?
You can drag your toolbar to the right side and hang it off the right side. The bottom toolbar. The bottom.
This one, the start bar, you mean? Okay.
Yeah, the start bar. Okay. Yeah. Just
You
drag
can
it
make that
like
window a bit smaller.
That's not really, maybe.
There you go. There you go.
I can get it, thanks. Okay, columns. I add the first one. This is a field, which I just call customer ID. It gets a data type. In this occasion, I pick serial, which is something you might know as an auto increment. This is a unique key field managed automatically by the database server. This ensures the key remains unique over the lifetime of the database. I don't want this field to be empty. And now I click OK, and I have to find my first field. But I'm not happy yet because I want this customer to have the first name, which is a character string, ready to receive 256 characters, which has no default value, but which I don't want to be empty in any case. So, and one more, the last name. Again, this is character. In this case, maybe this could be of varying length, just to show some of the possibilities here. Again, this length, I don't want this field to be null. I click OK, and I try to close this dialog.
Wat is hier steeds?
Those are Xbase Progress.
No, it's not. I'm a bit surprised because when I started, I think the resolution was much higher.
Maybe you go to the first tab and just enter. Wenn du auf die erste Liste gehst und vielleicht das Enter drückst, dann ist der Default-Button das okay.
Oder was meinst du?
Dass du unten auf den Push-Button drauf kommst.
Ich habe nicht verstanden, was du meinst.
Wenn du auf das erste Register gehst, dann hast du bloß den Default-Button, dann kannst du vielleicht den Enter bestätigen. Dann kommst du unten hin.
Kannst du mir zeigen, was du meinst? Ich stehe da auf dem Schlauch.
Es geht auch darum, dass du auf den OK-Button unten drauf
Ja.
kommst. Wenn du aufs erste Register gehst, auf Properties, dann hast du vielleicht bloß einen Default-Button, wenn du Enter drückst.
Normalerweise schon, ja, aber.
Alt-O müsste eigentlich auch gehen, ne? Weil der ist ja mit Alt und O hinterlegt.
Alt und O?
Ja, genau, weil
O.
als Shortcut.
Alt O. Hey. I can be slow, but I just learned something. You all mean this? Could we change places? Here's the table. It's the customer table. It has 3 columns. The ones I defined, the customer first name, last name. But there's nothing else because this is always set up. Customer ID is a numeric field which somehow gets its value managed by the system automatically. It may not be now, and so on and so on. So now we have our table. If I click on it and look at the toolbar, there's an icon called SQL, which when I click on it opens a query editor. So here's where you can enter queries, do administrative tasks. So the first thing I'm going to try is to select everything from this new customer table. And when I execute this query, I can see something is working already. I have no data yet, but I already have the structure which is returned as a query result, or shown as a query result at the bottom. Now to get some data into this table, I could again select the table, oops, open the context menu, and one of the items here is called scripts, which have the admin utility create template SQL statements for me. If I select an insert script here, what I get is a template for a SQL insert statement, which I can use to put some data into the table. I'm just removing the key field, the serial, because this is managed automatically. So I insert into the customer table and the first name and last name columns. My first name and my last name, which is no secret. When I execute this, I see that one row is affected by the insert and it took 63 milliseconds of execution time, whatever that means. But if I go back to the query and select again everything from the customer table, select execute, I can see, this table has data now. So at that point, you are already in a position to begin programming this table, to create this table from the Xbase Postgres. This is not the focus of this session, so I'm just going to show a simple project. I need to get used to this software. Okay.
Why don't you increase your current screen size still?
Sorry?
Why don't you increase your screen resolution on your local machine?
Is it that simple without
Yes,
getting this
yes,
thing?
that's simple.
I'll try everything. I'm desperate. Not to move like this. Do you mean like this?
Yes.
Oh, look at that. You know that kind of okay, that's the size you know.
That's too much?
No, you should know that much. You should know that much.
After all it was?
That's what you get. There you go.
But thanks for the Alt O2 anyway. I could have done this from the beginning, right? How many chances do I get?
Two, that's it, one more.
It's always fun to be informed, right?
No pressure.
No pressure. Okay, I think it was about to show the program, right? I think was it. Okay. No pressure, I love it. Okay, so this is a simple program. You'll see similar source code in Steffen's presentation. I'm just creating a new session which I want to connect to my server using the PostgreSQL. This is the server line running on the local host, and I want to connect to the customer database as the PostgreSQL user. There is no other right now, using this password. And once I'm connected, I run a query which I display in the browser. So I hit a breakpoint. And now here's Till in the browser. So at this point, you are ready, you are all set to begin programming the server and to explore the Applica features.
Why do you have to put the DBE name in the connect string? Isn't it always Postgre?
Because it's a generic connection string. It needs to know which method, which DB is going to use.
There are actually different DBEs.
Sorry?
I would think that it was a PG session object would always be there.
It could be ODBC DB
Oh, really?
at a later stage. I'm not sure what this is going to stay at the stage where you have to use a special session class to connect.
I see.
I would expect to be able to use the DAC session, and then it makes sense again, right?
Yes.
Good. So this was the programming side, kind of. What's left in the presentation is to look a bit at administrative tasks in the server. But this is too short.
I need to explain a bit more point 2 HBA configuration file. How we can do.
See?
How we can do change configuration file.
Okay, come to this. Okay, I had some laughing here in the first row, which probably was about getting someone to read it.
Yeah.
So, I'm no database administrator, so I'm looking at this from a user point of view. If you want to take your project live, there's some things that you need to know about database server administration. This is more than I can cover in this session, so better get some information and get yourself up to speed. What you should do, however, even at the development stage, is to set your server up for outside connections. And this is because the installer is pretty conservative, meaning after the default setup, nobody from the outside can see your server. So you have to go into the utility area to change this, to have other machines be able to connect to your server. And to do this, you just select the server in the tree view, go into the Tools menu, where there's an item server configuration, and there you find the PG-HBA conf file, which manages this kind of things. This is a list of entries, or rules, if you like, which define how outside connections are going to be handled. This is the default case, so after installation, your HBA conf file will look the same. And the first entry means that a machine connecting from outside will allow all users to connect to all databases, provided it's using this IP address. And in this case, this is the local host, the TCP IP loopback. So this means that the server, as it is set up now, it can only be accessed from this machine. So if you want other systems to be able to access it, you need to create a new entry in this list, which of course has to be enabled. To specify host-based configuration. You want to allow another system to access resources on your server, such as all tables, all users. If I had set up users already, I could pick individual users here to allow or grant access or reject it. I have to specify an IP address or subnet mask, which is the selector for which machines are going to be able to connect.
Yeah, this is great.
It's not?
No, that IP address, you're missing something.
I'm missing something. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
You're happy?
Yes, I know that.
That was your last chance.
That was my last chance. A lot of chances. What happens now? Are you going to pull the flag?
No, that was special.
Now that's special. I understand, okay. So what are you going to do about this IP address here? Do you leave it as it is? It's complete in your opinion?
It's fine.
It's fine, okay. So, I specify the way the user credentials are going to be transferred to the server, which is encrypted in this case. And if I click OK, I have at least the machines in this subnet here, in this case, in this number space in the first part, theoretically be able to connect to the server. Okay, so now it's accessible from the outside. Okay.
This is the address we have to put in the connecting string.
Sorry?
That's what we have to put in the connecting string.
In your program?
In the program, the connecting
No.
string.
No, you don't have to put it there. This is just the configuration on the server side, which is independent from the project. There's also authentication from the user. It sits on the user, and this is what you specify in the connection string.
Yeah.
You don't need to put any addresses in the string, right?
Well, you have to put localhost.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. This should replace localhost.
Yeah. In the connection string, you specify the address of the server. Okay, and this is the address of the client. Okay, this is the client machine I'm selecting.
Okay.
The 16, is that how many connections are allowed?
Now, this is what part of this mask is relevant. It's 16 bits of this 32-bit field, so it's the 192 and the 168, but not the last part.
Okay.
If I set 32 instead, I'd select a specific machine and allow it to connect. It's a mask.
Okay.
Good. There's a large number of options you can have in this dialog. Again, this is something we're going into the documentation to understand. I just wanted to give you the pointer to this HBA conf file because this might be an obstacle when you try to use another machine to access your server. Okay, users and groups are the next level of security. We have just specified which systems are allowed to connect. Now we're coming to the part where a specific user is trying to access a database to run a query, for example, or to change something in the data. This is where access privileges come into play. Each user has certain access rights, or he doesn't have it, which means that the query might be rejected by the server. So, what you could do, for example, again in the administrative utility, you could go to the login roles section, which is actually the users known to the server. And this is our super user, which we created during the installation. You could go in here, left click, and create a new user from the context menu. You could name this query, for example. You could require a certain password. You could have the account expire at a certain point. But, and this is the important part, you can specify what this user can do. Whether you can create tables or other database objects, whether you can create other users. So this is access privileges. If I select OK, I get this query user here, which is no super user, which can't create databases, can't create other users, and so on. And I could now go into my customer database, select my customer table, go into the properties, move the dialog into the screen, all the time remembering Alt-O, right? Okay? And I could now assign this user which I've created, the query user, to the table. Okay? If I selected OK now, if I assign this user, there'd be different access privileges. This table is no longer accessible only to the super user, but also to the query user. If it's not on the list, the query request would be rejected by the server. This was login roles, archive users. What we also have is group roles, which actually, from the setup point of view, is pretty much the same. You have the same options here. Again, you can specify for a group whether it's a super user group, whether members of this group can create database objects and so on. So it's a simplification. You could set up a query group, and now, as new users are being added, all you need to just need to assign these as members of the group instead of ticking each item for each user individually. Good. The next thing is the vacuum. Usually the way the Postgres server handles concurrency, that is, several users accessing the same data at the same time. Garbage accumulates in your tables. This is because several versions of the same record might be stored in the database, which gets later discarded but not reused unless you run this vacuum here. So you need to perform a vacuum, and the vacuum is to ensure unused space gets reclaimed by the server. In addition to cleaning up things, it's also important because it analyzes and updates the rules used internally by the SQL planner. So it optimizes your queries because it analyzes the current state of the database. In the default installation, the server will perform so-called auto vacuums from time to time, which is at a certain point in time when the server thinks it should be done. So this may be something you want to configure, because running a vacuum, of course, costs performance. If users are connecting to the server running queries or whatever, they will notice that the vacuum is running. So you may want to switch off this feature and instead schedule this on weekends or in the night, for example. On a development system, that's okay as it is, but just keep it in mind that there's something that might kick in and be noticeable to your users.
So Viking's going to take it kind of like read records, but when you have a serial field, it removes that number. Does that number get reused, or does it just keep incrementing from the last number?
It gets incremented with the last number, it runs up.
So there could be numbers missing.
There could be numbers missing. I think so, yes. But the system ensures that there's no duplicate. Exactly. But this is not just about deleting records, because it's a strategy to remove the requirement of having exclusive blocks and some long writes to the data, to keep several versions of the same record in memory or on disk. So if some user wants to query, it adds one version, which may have been changed in the meantime already by user writing to the data. So what gets reclaimed isn't really deleted, but just outdated. Okay, so it's a bit different from the deleted flag in the Xbase system.
Till, I believe your amplifier broke that.
Sorry?
The speaker doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't work anymore?
No.
And it's not okay to leave in the background?
Well, as a rule, regularly yes, but it helps if it's on.
It says here something about empty batteries.
It's working again.
Empty batteries.
Yeah.
It's working.
But there's a blinking icon, so
No, it's working.
it might go off any time. Vielleicht habt ihr noch Batterien da hinten?
Okay, wir üben auch schon gerade. Wir müssen halt gucken, was wir in der Pause kriegen.
This vacuum gets water out of the day.
Well, then don't bother, just continue to.
But this is also for the next guy. Okay, the vacuum. Thankfully, the server system is able to recover from a lot of bad things. You can pull the plug, you can have your operating system crash, and the server still be able to get itself back running once the system is up again. You may lose some data which was being written to, for example, but I thought it was a tape. Could you tell me when it goes off again? Then I switch batteries. What the server can't recover from is a crash disk, for example. And this is what you need to back up your data for. Or this finger problem, your self-deleting method accidentally. This is something you wish that you created the backup beforehand, and you can do this even when the system is up. It costs some performance, but it can be done while the system is running. And to do it, you just go back to the pgadmin, either select the whole database, open the context menu and say backup, or you go to individual tables you're interested in, click and select and do a backup.
Is it possible to do that from an Xbase program?
Sorry?
Is it possible to run a backup, tell it to do a backup from an Xbase program?
Can it be automated?
The backup?
Yes.
To run from the Xbase program?
Yes.
I don't think so. You could do it, you could possibly do it through a procedure implemented on the server which you call from the program. That might be possible. But it's rather administrative task. So I'd actually expect you to do it from the admin tool or from the command line on the server, not from the client. Right?
Could you get truth tables from It's also an administrative class.
Create tables?
Yeah.
That's something else.
There must probably be a command to do a backup from, like we create a table, we could launch a command to start a backup.
There might be. What I'm trying to say is I'm not sure whether that's a good idea to do it in the client because it affects everybody on the server, right?
Yeah, of course.
Back to the backup. In this dialog, you specify the target file which you want that you have the backup written to. You can name this anything you like. Select the output format, which may be a Concurrency format, maybe plain text. There's a lot of options allowing you to backup only the schema or only the data. So everything needed to be
There's a lot of speakers.
now the time. Is it working again?
Yes.
I think I selected the file, I think I selected the format. If I now press OK, the backup runs, outputting some information, and if everything went OK, I find the backup file on my desktop. I selected the text format, the plain format, so what I get is a file of text, of SQL commands, of equal statements, or things required to recreate your table which you've just backed up, or your database in this case. Now to restore this data from the disk, the procedure is very similar. Only that you need a target where you want to put your data into. You could select an existing table and select in the context menu restore, or you could create a database, an empty database. Should I call restore? And which I then use as the target for the restore operation. I select the file. And cannot do it. Okay. Do you remember if I select a table or the database when I backed up?
Table.
A table?
Yeah.
Okay. Table. I lost it a moment. I made a mistake somewhere.
There's a warning message on the right hand side of your screen flashing. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it.
So,
There's a way to start again.
this one.
Yes.
It's blinking, okay?
Yeah.
Ignore this, it's VMware telling me something. It's not been restored, unfortunately it's not. I just don't get this button at the bottom here. I should be able to select OK, so I took the wrong term somewhere. But you get the idea, right? You select your target, you select restore, do better than I did, and then you have to store the things in the backup file.
If you restore it to the same data.
What was that?
Right back down to the what you do.
Okay.
Better than Till.
And then you tell me that you did better than me.
Yes.
And then there'll be a price.
Yes.
So you don't have to set the user rights at that table so that you at least know you're allowed to input data into that table. Your new
You need to
table.
make sure you're allowed to do this. Right?
Yes.
So you're saying, I assign this to the query user.
For instance.
Maybe it's somewhere there that it is wrong. Not all users can do this, right? So maybe I'm not allowed to do this at this point. Okay. One more thing about backing up. Don't try to copy off files from the server. You know where the data folder is, but don't try to just copy files away using a backup program, for example. Unless you know what you're doing. You could stop everything, shut down the server, and then you could take the stuff from the disk. But if you don't do this, if you try to move off the files while the server is running, what you get is a mess. Because there's not just the databases, there's also internal state information, which if it doesn't match, will mess everything up. So don't try, at least not unless you're really sure what you're doing. Better use the facilities provided by the admin tool. And later on, when you're more experienced, you could schedule this automatically from the command line, for example. But for starters, use the admin tool, don't try to do it yourself. Now, optimizing for performance is also an important issue. You'll probably hear many people telling you that you need to buy new hardware to get your server running because it's so resource hungry. Actually, it's not. Before you start buying things, better start at this point here. Optimize your queries. You can have monster hardware sitting under the table. It doesn't make sense to waste these computing power on select everything type queries. So start here, and if you want to buy, or think you need to buy new hardware, start on this part here. Use good hard disks, which have high RPMs, which have good endurance. Don't go for the consumer type stuff, which is going to degrade pretty quickly. It's just not built for runtime operation. So specialize in this, and if you want to optimize even further, go to this area. There's a thing called the divided log, which contains internal status information. If you move this off to a solid state disk, to a state disk, you can get a real boost in performance. But you don't need big servers, at least not for the kinds of applications you use. I think if you have a network running already, a file-based system, it should be able to also run a Postgres server, client server system. Okay. I think the time is up. This is about what I want to tell you about Postgres. What do you think? Any questions?
There was a thing on the previous screen about
application?
Yeah, you can, so when you write data, you can replicate it on the fly to another database in another location?
You can replicate on the fly, yes, but I can't show you because frankly I've never done this.
Are you a developer?
I'm a developer, okay?
Yes.
So, I'm looking at this from a user perspective, but I think you can do this live, yes. Replicate on another table.
Is there a reason way of determining whether you are the only user in on the system at a time? And if so, applying some kind of lock to prevent other users coming in while you do a process on it?
You want to block other users from
Yes, you might want to just, you say, I'm going to be posting the month end or something like that. I don't want any of the users coming in. while the system is posting, and then you unlock it for other users at a later stage so that people can come back in. Is that possible?
And that is possible. You can take the data off, you can take the server off the net, of course. So yes, you can.
From within Xbase
Within Xbase theoretically, now we're on the programming side where you need to create facilities for this on the server. So there won't be some Xbase statement for doing this. I don't think it's something that you need to do from the server side, right? Yeah. You could trigger operations from within the program. Okay, that's probably possible, but I don't think that's the way it should be done. Unless you're the super user, of course.
No, it's not that. It's just after a certain period of time, the accounting manager wants to have the month-end information. At this time, it must be frozen. The system has been frozen until this report is made and posted, and then it can reopen the system for any access.
Yes, but
if we don't do it from the program side, then he has to call the responsible of the server to do it, then he does it, and then enter it in order to do his job.
Why wouldn't you just query by a date range? Why would you care if someone else is on the system?
Sure, I mean, it's just in the programs that I have, often it does month ends or period ends and requires people to be out while it posts all the batches or something like that.
Right, but
I know you can rewrite the program and make it a completely different kind of way of working.
no, but when you say month end, I mean, it's a date. Wouldn't you simply do it based on the date? People can still add, but if you got a date cutoff, it doesn't matter. I'm confused. The 19 month end is what it's always based on date, the end of the month. Anything after that, once it's not taken into account.
Well, I agree. Certain applications can be completely rewritten to work in a different way. Yes.
okay. I'm not sure. I understand why you want to lock the server for this operation, because technically I don't think it's required to do this.
No, probably not.
So I'm not sure how to answer your question. It's possible to take this off the net to prevent users from connecting when you're doing this thing, but I'm not sure if it's a good way to do it this way.
Is there an equivalent in PostgreSQL as file lock and record to DBF? Because if we file lock, we've locked everyone else out.
It would, but that wouldn't prevent other users from reading, for instance, because it's not a file lock in the traditional sense. What are you looking for at the moment? You're looking for to prevent others
From adding records.
from modifying the data, right?
Right.
But that's not required because the system ensures that nothing bad happens while you write to record, for example. This is this multi-version thing I tried to explain.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just thinking from the standpoint of the gentleman. Because the way we do it, we can file lock to prevent anyone from adding a record, modifying a record, we can run a report. So just PostgreSQL, can you also do the same type of thing where you file lock, don't allow anyone to do anything to the server rather than taking the administration approach and saying locking out the users? Is there something that you could do on the table level?
No.
I have another question. You were always talking about the server, but on the client side, do you need to install a VDC driver or?
You need to install the PGDB, the Postgres database
On
engine.
each workstation or?
On each workstation, yes.
Okay.
Yes, the client side of things.
And there is a tool.
It comes with a package. It's part of the Xbase installation.
Yes, it is possible to have an application that's mainly using the SQL server, but also uses a couple of DBA tables in a folder on the server as well. Is that possible?
It's possible to mix
Yes.
these
So we can use
extra
those tables.
tables. Yes, you have always the separation of the session level. So you can theoretically use tables and a file-based database at the same time.
Yes.
Till, I've always heard that DBA on a SQL server is a major issue.
That?
The administration of a SQL server in a SQL server is a major issue.
It is a major issue, at least when you take the project live. That's something you need to plan time for. But to get the development system ready, that's not so difficult. I think you've seen that. Just add your tables and, well, try to find a way to familiarize with that kind of thing. That should be set up pretty quickly. Okay. There's more.
How does the performance of Postgres compare with Oracle, for instance?
I'd say it's comparable. It depends a bit on the actual operation, on the data types used, but on a general level, I think it's about as good or even better.
Performance depends a lot on how the database operates. If you write data to an Oracle database, it has a lot of bookkeeping to do before one record write is finished. Now you can turn that off and write a lot of records and do the bookkeeping afterwards. There's a setting for that. But what's the way? Is it possible for Postgres to do the same sort of things?
It is possible because the system already contains methods for optimizing this kind of thing. Not everything you change or add to your tables is written to disk immediately, but instead is cached somewhere while the user can go on operating the program. The server then writes out the things when it's ready, when there's time for it, without blocking users, for example.
Okay, so usually that's a major problem with Oracle. If you can't fine-tune it that way, then we have, say, 100 records a second maximum that you can write, which if you have to write many records is a major problem.
That's a problem, but as far as I know, Postgres doesn't perform any different from other systems because it's basically the same theory being applied. So every performance drop we have in the SQL system itself, we are also going to find in this server system, of course. But I wouldn't expect it to be any worse than with Oracle or SQL Server.
Likely to be better.
So go check it out and then report back to us. I think we'll be very happy.
I have two questions. First, you can administrate the SQL Server from Xbase application side.
This is going into the same area.
Yeah. Then is it possible to change structures when other users
To change?
table structures, add fields or something when other users or some clients have access on the table?
If you change the structure, that's going to be complicated. You can do it, but not with users still on the previous, for example. Administrative things is
not really recreate the fixed structure with the system 50 users connected.
And why would you do it? If you change the structure, you need to change your program to address the structure.
No. For SQL, for links, you can add a field, make an update, and get information for other groupings or something. Makes sense.
But if you change structure, this is going to cause downtime. At least when people are connected to the table, they have to wait until the operation is finished.
No, I see when you connect it on the table, you see the old structures, and you can, as user, add the field, and the other users, when you reopen this file, you get the new structure in some page. So, for example, the new ABS version 11 should connect.
Okay. I don't think that's possible.
Is there any transactions inside the I don't have to write any source code in my applications for like a transaction.
Okay.
With the standard DBEs that we run currently, we have the ability to register a client against the data area. Is there something similar with the data sessions in a Postgres? Be able to register a client to the data area so that as updates are made, we'll know that it's a new record.
That's possible. That's supported with the Isernhagen Ministration.
Yes.
So
it's similar.
Same procedure. Final slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you.